Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Insider's Edge podcast here on the WZWA Network. I'm your host with the most on the West Coast, Karlifornia in Fury. It's a joy to be with you all once again. And speaking of a joy, right here, right now, I get to talk to the NWA World Television Champion. Here's the one, here's the only, here's Mr. Thom Latimer. How are you, sir?
Hello, I should have brought the belt. I forgot about that.
That's okay,
I just
mate.
got back to the gym, so I wasn't thinking.
No, that's okay. Thanks for taking the time to speak to me here today. And our first question, as per usual, Thom, is how did you become a fan of professional wrestling before you got into the business?
It wasn't something that I grew up on. My family wasn't into it. We didn't have Sky, which is cable, and so I'd have to go to other people's homes or whatever, or people that my parents went to church with to go watch Raw or whatever and stay up till 1 a.m. So I just basically stumbled across it because a bunch of my friends at the time, or at least other kids in school, this is when wrestling was still popular, when you were a kid. And so I saw everyone throwing and suplexing the bags around and everything. And I had no idea what they were talking about, but everyone was into it. And so little by little, I'd sort of like get hold of VHS tapes or, like I say, stay over at people's homes. And funnily enough, I found WrestleMania 8 at my grandparents' house. And there's no reason why that should have been there. There was just like lots of little bits that I sort of collected over that time frame because I just had no access to it, but everyone was really into it, so it just kind of developed from there. And then once I saw Foley get chucked off the cage, that's when I decided that was seemed like a great idea.
Awesome stuff. It sounds very similar to my experience becoming a fan of wrestling. When it was quite popular back in the 90s, but yeah, being from Perth.
How old are you
access.
Now? How old are you, Carl?
I'm actually 36, so I believe we're
same age as me then. So
yeah. But yeah, it was hard to get access to it over here. We did get WWE and a little bit of WCW as well, but everything else was just slim pickings as far as being so isolated here in Australia.
Yeah, it was the same in the UK.
Yeah, exactly, and so that's really cool. That, the way that you were able to become a fan there. And okay, there's a point in time where, okay, you've been a fan, but you have to make this decision to go for it, and you got to find somewhere to get trained.
Right.
What made you decide to go for it?
So weirdly enough, again, my grandparents went into wrestling. There's no reason why that WrestleMania 8 tape should have been there. But they knew a kid who was a few years older than me that went to the same school. I didn't really know him. And my gran told me, oh, this kid that you went to school with, who's a few years older, is now wrestling. And in my mind, I was like, oh, wow, he's wrestling for WWE. I had no idea there was independent wrestling and stuff like that. So on mine, I'm like, what? And so weirdly enough, I'm out drinking on a night out with a friend of mine when I was a kid. I don't know, I was probably around 14, 15. And I bump into this guy, this kid that's older than me, on a New Year's Eve, and so we get chatting. Next thing you know, I'm refereeing for Sovereign Championship Wrestling. Didn't know what I was doing, and then from then I started wrestling on their shows too, without any sort of experience or whatever. They just let me go on there, and I could pretend to be Jeff Hardy or whatever. And then once I was 18, I moved to Leeds. I moved to Harrogate, which is next door to Leeds. And somehow I stumbled across Jeff Kay and Drew McDonald's school, and they were some old World of Sport veterans who were still wrestling a lot. And Drew and Jeff had connections to WWE. Like Jeff was friends with Finlay, and Drew became the talent scout for a while. So weirdly enough, I found this school in the middle of Leeds in like a dirty gym in the middle of nowhere. And somehow, there's only a few of us too, we're just training on mats. And somehow this one place that I find for some unbelievable reason has a connection to WWE. So eventually I started getting on shows and things like that and wrestling for, local promoters around the area and things. And little by little, I start going to the WWE tryouts. And so it was just sort of like, I guess nothing is a coincidence, is it? But it's very bizarre to think that I found the one place that had a connection to WWE, which then helped me get to America and things like that. It was just, I was incredibly lucky, really, thinking back.
Yeah, absolutely. It's amazing. And, you know, you get to this like crossroads, you know, this is something that you wanted to do, but, you know, what do you think you would have done if you didn't get into pro wrestling? What do you think you would have become?
I don't know. It's quite horrifying to think, to be honest. I really don't know because I wasn't very good at school at all. I did, my parents made me go to catering college for 2 years when I left school at 16, well, 15, 16, as a backup. The wrestling doesn't work well, you can be a chef. So I did do that, and somehow, by the skin of my teeth, I got my MVQ level 2 in hospitality and catering. So I'm a quote unquote qualified chef, but luckily I never needed to use it. Lots of them, my other friends did. So I don't really know, because at the time I was like working in cardboard box factories and sort of just doing these dead end, awful jobs. And so I'm sure at some point, once I can't wrestle anymore, I'll go back to that. But it is what it is. But I really don't know. I can't think it would have been great. I was doing a bit of security work and things like that before I came to America, so I presumed I'd have probably carried on that sort of line of work. You know, doing security is slightly better than working in a cardboard box factory. So
I think that's amazing. A cardboard box factory, like that.
Yeah, have you seen that? You're a Simpsons fan?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking about.
I think every time I'm like, well, that cardboard box factory episode. Yeah, that could have been me.
That's excellent. So okay, you're talking about how this company has these ties to WWE, and there's obviously an opportunity for you to go to the US. I was really interested to ask you about this because I have a friend called Rob, and growing up, he was so big into film. He wanted to make films. He wanted to be a filmmaker. So where did he go to do that? He moved all the way to Los Angeles to chase his dream. Whereas I think a lot of his friends never really believed he was actually going to do it. They just thought it was just like a phase or a hobby. But he really went for it, and I've always been so proud of him because of that. For you, like, how difficult was it for you to chase this dream and literally move to, you know, near, you know, the other side of the world to chase it?
So I grew up on, you know, wrestling and American TV, Simpsons, all that kind of stuff, right? And so I always felt like I was born in the wrong place. I recently watched that Arnold documentary on Netflix, and he's talking about, I did the same thing. I'd lay in bed staring at the posters when I was a kid, just, you know, envisioning, hoping that I would get to America and become a pro wrestler. And Arnold felt like he was born in the wrong place and he should have been American. That's kind of how I felt too. So you know, for me, being some, you know, idiot kid from Chesterfield in the UK, it was like, you know, I knew I was going to make it. It's as weird as it sounds. I knew I was going to make it, quote unquote. I knew I was someday going to get hired by WWE and live in America. But it was just as, you know, difficult as me deciding one day, okay, I'm going to be an astronaut and walk on the moon. You know, that's how far away it seemed to be. So, you know, I don't know. Like I said, it's something that I knew I would do, but it just seemed absolutely impossible. But it was like a lot of good luck, a lot of stumbling into the right situation, meeting the right people. Because even when I started trying out for WWE, I was maybe, I don't know, 19, 20 at the time. I had my first tryout in 2000. I think I started kind of wrestling in 2002, untrained. I started getting proper training in 2005. And by that point, I pretty much started having tryouts at WWE right away, even though I didn't really know what I was doing. And one of the first times that I went there, I had a match on Heat. It was me and a friend of mine that was at the school against Snitsky and Tomko. And I remember getting my head taken off by Tomko's or Snitsky's big boot or whatever, and lying there in the corner and hearing the place go mad, and then looking at the turnbuckle and seeing the WWE logo on and being like, I can't believe that I'm in this ring right now. This is mad. I don't really remember a lot of that day. It was kind of a scary blur. But from that point, I sort of had tryouts for the next sort of 5 years, and I either was told nothing, or it got to the point where I think in 2007, Drew, Seamus, Wade, a couple of other guys, and some of the guys that I went to my quote unquote school with, they all got hired except for me. And on that same day, I got a phone call from my boss at my real job. I was working in this like a CD music shop, and he said, "Sorry, Tom, you've lost your job." So on that day, everyone got hired and got to go to America except for me, and I lost my real job. So at that point, I thought, okay, I'm never going to get, when you're that age, you think that you think that you're too old, it's already over. It's like, no, it's just be patient. Like wrestling there's just a lot of, you just got to be patient. There's some people, that I started with that have only recently in the last couple of years got hired. So it just takes time. I think, you have to not be delusional. Like you obviously have to be competent enough, but essentially, if you just keep throwing shit at the wall, it'll eventually stick. So I quit for a year and I got a real job. I cut my hair off. And then one day I was sat watching it on TV and I thought, no, I've got to try this again. And so then I went back, had another tryout. Arn Anderson noticed me, Martin Stone, and Rampage Brown, and then brought us back the next time. And they hired Rampage and they hired Martin, and nothing was said to me. And I'm like, oh, here we go again. This is this is the fifth year of nothing. And so Drew dragged me in front of Johnny Ace, and Johnny Ace sort of is like, what steroids are you on? So, I'm on nothing. He's like, all right, we're going to send you a piss test in the post. If you pass it, you come into Florida. If you fail it, we'll never deal with you again. I was like, okay. So I piss test and I was all right. So, but again, it's kind of one of those things. Maybe had I have stepped up and said something before, I might have got hired or what. I don't know. But it definitely was disheartening for sure. But after 5 years of trying out, finally in 2009, I got signed. 2010, that's when I finally came to America.
Right. So there you go. Like, it goes to show when you keep persevering, it can work out in the end. And you end up getting hired there by WWE, and you spend some time there in their developmental program, FCW, NXT, etc. I don't want to harp too much on the WWE experience because I've got so much about the NWA that I want to talk about. But just that experience, can you tell me something like you learned a lot about maybe yourself, maybe the top thing that you learned about yourself, and yeah, just some other thoughts in that experience overall?
Well, I know that America is similar to England. It's not everyone speaks English, that kind of stuff. But it was still a massive culture shock. I didn't drive at the time. I was 24 when I got here. Still haven't really lived or done very much, not really traveled that much. So the whole thing was definitely a culture shock. And then walking into that place too, I'd spent all my younger years in the Attitude Era days and or before, and even leading up to coming to America. That's all I watched was, tapes between like 97 and 2001, right? 2010 when I get there. And so I've got this skew-with vision of what it's going to be. And I think that when I got there, I went, oh, wait, this isn't what, silly me. I thought, oh, this isn't what I grew up watching. This isn't the era I should be in. I think that it probably, my dreams broke right there. And I went, oh, because this was around the time they were doing, and I was lucky to not get added to that, but the NXT thing where they're making them do, silly things or whatever, like, just seemed like a bit of a burial. I don't know. I just got there and went, oh man, my dream isn't what I thought it was going to be. And I think my dream just broke right then. But I'll say this, that, working in the UK back then, there wasn't, TV, there wasn't, you didn't cut promos, you didn't do any of that kind of stuff. So my time there was incredibly helpful because it helped me be able to cut promos and be able to know where the hard cam is and just do all that TV-esque wrestling that I didn't have to do before because I could just be a cheerleader and nothing needed to make sense. You know what I mean? It was just more entertaining kids. that kind of wrestling in the UK back in the day. It's more like a family-friendly show, like, and so it was getting used to that sort of, style. And then I was really lucky in the fact that Dusty saw something in me, and he sort of helped sort of guide me and push me a lot. Him and Bill Dunlop. And I think without those two people, I'd have definitely suffered there, or not had the intestinal fortitude to persevere and push through. However, at that time, still, though, I was still a big drinker. Decade later, I finally, managed to get over that hump. But drink was always a big problem. And the first 2 weeks I was in developmental, I got a DUI right away, reduced to reckless. But still, that was, I've been there 2 weeks and already I'm in trouble with the law. And then from what I was told, it got, apparently, I don't know if this is true, it got to Vince, and Vince went, whatever, I don't know who he is, it's fine. So that was okay. I don't know, again, if that's true or not, but that's just what I heard. And then, again, still drinking, I'm still partying. I think I'm kind of miserable. There's a lot of other things going on in my life as well. So I'm still obviously drinking a lot. And then just at the time that me and Ryan are starting to sort of like get some good stuff going with the Ascension, we've got cool videos and everything's sort of coming together. I didn't know what I had at the time at all. I think I was also slightly egotistical with thinking, I'll be okay. And then when I got arrested for battery on a law enforcement officer and drunk and disorderly, I mean, that's deportable. It's not good. So, luckily with that, I managed to get that taken care of, and I did whatever things needed to be to apologize and make amends. But WWE obviously went, you've got an issue, you've got to go. And so I remember like sort of emailing Johnny Ace, and Johnny was the one that hired me, and he did a lot of good things for me when I was there. Like my granddad got sick and he flew me back to the UK to see him. And there's one point where I was struggling. I didn't have enough money to buy a bed. And so Johnny put me on the road for a week. I did like a loop of Raw to make extra money. Like, I was one of his hires, so he went out of his way to sort of like, and again, I didn't even think anything of it at the time, but, he went out of his way to help me. And so once I, got fired, I thanked Johnny, and he was just like, hey, I think maybe down the line we'll meet again and we'll work together, but you need to go away and take care of your drinking problem. And I'm like, yeah. I don't have a problem. And so that just that was then the next, it just never ended. So, at that point, again, it should have been something where I woke up and went, oh, wait, I can't be doing this. I obviously have an issue. But in my mind, I did not. Nothing wrong with me. So, that was that. And then that was the whole of the process too. Like, if I'd have left the country, then I'd have been a fugitive. It was a sort of a sticky, grey, horrible time for me. Looking back, I don't know how I survived all of it, to be honest. And it gets worse from there, obviously. But I mean, it was the time there again was very valuable for me, and to learn and to sort of get better as a professional wrestler. But it didn't do anything to sort of stop my issues. It sort of that wasn't the problem. I was the problem, but it just fed into my issues more. I just didn't give a shit. You know what I mean? I thought I'll be okay. Ridiculous.
No, I understand, and it's kind of difficult because when you're in your early 20s or your early to mid 20s, you're still figuring stuff out about the world and yourself. And I was the same in my early 20s. I thought that nothing I ever did was a problem or anything like that. Then it gets to a point where it finally clicks. You finally figure everything out. And I didn't have this written down or anything, but I thought I'd ask. When was the moment when you're like, oh, you know what? Okay, maybe it is me. Maybe I need to fucking snap out of it now and get out of this. How did that come about? What was it the final thing that made you go, that's it, I've got to change?
There should have been many. I mean, I got arrested again in TNA and had to go through all that, which was awful. Something that I still, live with all of it. never goes away, but you just have to keep moving forward. And then I was given an opportunity to wrestle in Japan too for Noah, and that could have been something really great for me and something that I should have, you know, given everything to. And who knows how that could have gone. And within a week, I was kicked off that tour because of my drunken behavior and sort of ex-nayed from the history books, like and so it just felt like one thing after the other that should have been the thing for me to go, oh, hang on a second. Just, a couple of divorces and bad relationships and being sort of home, quote unquote, homeless for periods, and having to live with Drew McIntyre, Drew Galloway, and even Tyrus took me in for about 3 months. Like I just sort of bobbing around, I don't know, sort of aimlessly. And then at TNA they would give me the ball and I would just take it and toss it away. And looking back, it's like I had all these things and all these opportunities and all this sort of trust put in me, and all I did was break it every time. I just, whether it was subconscious or not, I just always wanted to press that destroy button, especially when things sort of seem to go good. Whether they're going good or bad, I'd have been pressing it. But I don't know, it was just a very bizarre time where I don't understand what I was doing, who I was. Just bizarre when I think back, embarrassing and bizarre. So it was the last straw really was, I'd been trying to quit. This would have been, I don't know, 6 years ago. I was trying but not really, in and out of it. And then when me and my wife Kaylee met, I was drinking a little bit then, and things had kind of happened, and that I ended up going to see a friend of mine in Vegas. And of course, I promised I'd be on my best behavior and all that kind of stuff. And of course, that didn't happen at all. We got into a big fight, and lots of other things happened. I could have even been arrested that night. And Kaylee had sort of, she's like, yeah, I won't do this anymore. And so even though that to me, obviously, it's still a big traumatic thing for me and her and other people, but it wasn't sort of the point where there's a million other points that should have been it. And so I don't know if it was just, okay, I've been doing this for a decade now, if not longer. Nothing good is coming of it. I really need to try and just stop. And so after that, I think I was definitely resilient for a little point. And then slowly but surely, it just kind of got easier and easier. Now it's really something that is very, very, very rarely would I ever think, or would that sort of idea of drinking pop into my head. I obviously worry about any big deaths in the family, or I don't know, anything that would be traumatic enough for me to think about it. That's always a worry. It's a worry anyway, but I'm saying, like, that's going to be the test, the real test. I think it's, Kaylee, how long have I been sober now? She's in the garden. November is 4 years. So it's kind of, it really does get easier and easier and easier as the time goes on. I still have a sugar addiction and a tobacco addiction. But ultimately I'm shouldn't do anything naughty or get myself into trouble or upset anyone by eating too much chocolate. So so back to it, it wasn't a massive thing, but it was just, I think it was just the point where it's just like, I love this. I'm getting older. There's no more second chances. There's a lot less love in the world. It's now or never. You've got to be a big boy and deal with your emotions and deal with life. I think it's so easy to, and there's so many millions and millions of people that have problems with addiction, no matter what it is. But it's because life sucks. Life is hard, and we're all everyone has their own level of pain tolerance and what they can deal and not deal with. So, but I just feel like everyone hurts. Everyone's got some form of trauma. Something's happened in their life, no matter. And so people just don't want to have to deal with that. And so, having to deal with it and or think like an adult, look at myself in the mirror, things like that took a bit of time, but ultimately, it's more than likely saved my life. It definitely saved my relationship, and it's helped build mend bridges again. And because I've hurt a lot of people along the way, and so you know, showing that it can be done, has obviously helped me, and hopefully it can show other people too that it can be done, because it was something that I never thought I'd always drink it. Fuck you, fuck the world, I hate everyone. But really, I just hated myself. And so, I just think that for people that do have issues or whatever, and I understand that they hurt and they want to numb it, but you can get out of that, because life now is so, it's just smooth and easy. And man, it could have always been this way. Smooth, easy, everything works. There's no issues. I'm not looking over my shoulder. Like, I don't understand why this wasn't me from the get-go, so.
No, well, thank you so much for sharing about all of that stuff, because I kind of feel like I've been similar in a way, although I never got into any big trouble. I guess I got away with all my naughtiness, but one of my big problems was self-sabotage. If something good comes my way, and I ended up ruining it for myself by self-sabotaging it, because I just can't allow myself to be happy. It finally
right.
Yeah, so it finally took me to be 30, 31 years old to finally all snap out of it and just try and be happy and enjoy being happy, and not be like, oh, I'm happy, so I feel uncomfortable being happy, so I'm going to ruin it by making myself miserable again.
Right. And or I've done really, really well, I'm really happy, so it'll be fine if I do this.
Exactly.
But I think once hitting your 30s, I remember Kurt Angle once telling me, like, don't worry, Bram, you've got till about 40 before you really need to, get your head on your shoulders. You know what I mean? But as soon as once I was in like the 32, 33, that's when I was like, it's probably time to to kick out of this now.
Yeah, totally agreed. And look, let's get into some NWA talk here as we head towards the end of the interview here, bro. Right now, you're the NWA Television Champion. You've been bubbling under the glass ceiling like your mate Chris Adonis for some time there. You're almost there. Do you think there's going to be a time soon where you and your wife will both be world champions?
I mean, I would say yes. I feel like my body of work the last 4 or 5 years has been pretty good. I'm obviously getting older, my body hurts, I can't move like I used to, so there's limitations coming from that part. But I think that, like, at least now, me being clear-headed, sober, trying to be the best professional wrestler I can be, I feel like, okay, well, if the company is gonna, Billy is gonna go, okay, here's your run or whatever. I feel like at least now, they can be confident in doing something like that with me, and I can be confident with me too, because that's always a fear, to press that button again, and it's something that I really want to leave the back end of my time in pro wrestling. I want to leave it how it should have been the entire time. I want to be able to walk away from it and go, well, at least the back end was good. At least I was who I should have been at the back end. I might have taken the long way to get there, but eventually, in some form or another, I proved to myself and everyone else that I can be that person. So I hope so. Ultimately, it's not my decision. So I just do what I do. If you, whatever the task is, whatever is asked of me, I do it. I think that's what we all should do. I mean, that's what we're in the job to do. I'm not the owner. I don't book things. But I'll just do as I'm told.
Absolutely understand. There was a moment in time, I think it was last year, I think Matt Cardona got injured. They had to vacate the belt, and then a bunch of guys had come out, you know, wanting to be a part of the match for the new champion. I was like, now's the time. Now's the time. Latimer should be winning it here. That's just me. I thought that was the time. Because you know, I love it when things like that happen, and there's an opportunity, and then all of a sudden someone rises up to the top. But you know, didn't happen that way, but that's okay. I'm sure it will in the future.
I got to wrestle my friend Sam Shaw.
Oh yeah.
So just having him around for that, because he was obviously there for a heartbeat before we snapped him up again. But it was glorious to be able to share the ring with that guy again. So I miss that guy and love him very much.
That's very cool. So okay, I had Nick Aldis on the show ages ago, but I asked him about Strictly Business because I thought it was a great stable in the NWA. You got, you know, yourself, Camille, Nick, Chris Adonis, May, as well as Royce Isaacs, and of course Scott Steiner. What are your fondest memories of, you know, that time with that group of people?
Obviously, Nick's, you know, one of my closest best friends, and so you know, we've always somehow, I mean, we live 20 minutes from each other again now. We're always somehow coming in and out of each other's life, whether it's professionally or, you know, just because we're pals. So I love any time that I can be around. Obviously, people that I'm close to, my friends and stuff like that. And then working with people like that is, you know, it's a lot easier because you can, you understand each other and what needs to happen and things like that. So that whole period anyway was a sort of special, unique time. You know, it sort of when it sort of came to be, it was you know, a lot of people were talking about it and it had, you know, some real good buzz. So the whole time was special anyway, just because it was the start of this journey. But I mean, you know, probably in the ring is probably when we beat up Tim. We turned on Tim. But that, you know, and obviously Scott being there too and hearing one of his promos is tremendous. So, but I mean, the whole time was good, and you know, the roster was good. A lot of the guys have gone now and stuff, but you know, it was just a special time in general. So, you know, as far as the wrestling part, probably those bits, but in the whole picture, I just really enjoyed that whole time. It's fresh, it's new, it's exciting, it's got buzz, you know. So it was a cool time.
That's excellent to hear. And, you know, you have been such a big part of the NWA since, you know, Billy's done what he's done with the company. Or sorry, should I say William Patrick Corgan has done with the company. What do you think that the NWA need to do to kind of like get to that? Because it's doing so well as far as I'm concerned. What does it need to do to get to that like next level? You know, does it need like a, I don't know, like, I don't, it's hard to ask this question, but like, what do you think is missing that will help propel NWA to like a bigger spot, you know, within the world of pro wrestling?
I don't know. I feel like we need to stay different to everything that's out and about. Wrestling is now a niche of a niche of a niche. And so it's really hard to sort of pull in the casual viewer or there was a lot of people that used to watch wrestling. They're still alive. They're still out there somewhere. They just don't want to watch it anymore. So that needs to be addressed as a whole. Like, what happened for us to lose that big chunk of people? And that goes for pretty much every company, I guess, besides WWE. So I just feel like we need to make sure that we stay different. If we're going to give, there's so much wrestling that, okay, if the market is oversaturated, what can we do that they aren't doing? You know, I guess just more of that, more of I can't say the word, differentiating ourselves from everybody else, and going back to that more old school type pro wrestling, and back to the studio, maybe, and more promos and things like that. Again, it's like that's out of my jurisdiction. I don't know. I'm not. That's not my forte. I just know that whatever you tell me to do, I'll do it to the best of my abilities, and that's all that I can control. So that's all I worry about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, fair enough. Just want, you know, every time I have someone that works there on the show that's been there for some time, I like to ask about that because, you know.
Oh no, sure, I totally understand. Well, you tell me, what do you think?
Well, I think it's the first
See,
time in nearly 170 episodes someone's asked me a question. Yeah, stay the course, stay different. That's definitely, I like that. I don't know what the infrastructure's like with the NWA, if there's a lot of people wearing many different hats, which can possibly lead to people getting burned out because they're doing so many different things. I don't know if that's a thing, but just wondering what the infrastructure's like there, if there's a head office or anything like that. I don't know. But yeah,
what do you like? What do you like that's bad?
what do I like?
Yeah, what do you like? What do you dislike? What do you think could be bad? Because ultimately, it's you that is the ones that we need to please.
I do a lot of reviews on our YouTube channel of the pay-per-views. I always offer my advice. I just say what I like and what I dislike, really. But what I like is I like that it's going back to feeling like it's real in a way. It's not phony. It doesn't insult my intelligence as far as I'm concerned. So that's like the thing that I like the most is like when there's a blood feud, it feels like, you know, it really means something and it's not all this hokey crap and all that stuff. And I like the fact that even when you have like a junior heavyweight division there with like a Kerry Morton, etc., the matches aren't, you know, like some of these other companies that have these high flying matches where all realism is taken out. They still keep the realism in there, even if it is guys that are, you know, of a weight class that's a little bit lighter than the heavyweights. So it's that stuff that my biggest pet peeves of wrestling is like everyone suddenly has fallen to the outside and they all happen to be in that part of the area out the front of the ring, near the entrance ramp where there's a lot of area for people to suddenly do these dives where it's so coincidental that they all happen to be standing there. That stuff drives me crazy, bro. So I don't see it that much in the NWA. So again, things don't insult my intelligence there. If there's anything that change or make better, geez. I don't know.
I'll jump in with some because yeah, of course you need good quality pro wrestling stuff that makes sense. There's room for everything, but again, like you say, it needs to make sense. There needs to be a reason for it to happen. Again, back to that point, you can't just toss the guy out and dive on him. It defeats the purpose. You're trying to beat the guy in the ring, whatever, right? But ultimately, I think that what I would like to see more is more feuds and more storyline, more consistency, and that way, the viewer, you like when you watch a soap or whatever, you want to be taken on a journey. You want to feel emotionally a certain way about something. You want to, even if they're not wrestlers you might like, maybe the storyline's good enough to suck you in. And I think the more we can get back to good versus evil and a nice, simple storyline we can follow that is consecutive and follows through from start to the end, that I think would really help. Because we can watch a million cold matches everywhere and it doesn't mean anything. Who gives a shit? Like, it could be a shitty match, but if the storyline is there or there's a good build-up, or even hell, video packages. When I was a kid, I loved those things, you know. Rock Austin, WrestleMania. Like, give me some of that. That's my thing. Again, you go back to the strictly business thing. They just, you know, the storyline there. And I think for me, wrestling is whatever. It's more about the emotional attachment that you have to it.
Yeah, I
That's
agree.
just my.
No, no, now you mention that kind of thing, like, yeah, like I do like video packages before the matches because I find that I get more invested as a fan if I've just seen the build up to this fight take place just before it happens. You know, if it's on the big screen there live in front of the crowd, I find that it makes people more invested. Because you never know, someone might be tasting the product for the first time as they're seeing this. So, you know, if they're brought up to speed before the match, then the investment is there. So things like that. I also like to see like more things outside of the ringside area and backstage for an interview, because the buildings that you're in, there's a whole world there that you can utilize for different scenarios. That's just me. Some wrestling companies, I feel like, man, you have a whole arena to work with, and I feel like there's so much more that could be done. Yeah, it's not just about what's the ringside area. You could tell so many stories from so many different areas of the building, as far as I'm concerned. So,
right, that's just a setting, you know, and like you say, there's so many things. I mean, even go back to the video packages. I remember having video packages like the Ascension and stuff that I do at Impact, and even I would get hyped up listening, or even ICW in the UK. I'd hear the video packages, I'd hear the crowd, or I'd be able to sit on the monitor, and even that would pump me up for the match, you know. So just even as a worker, like that stuff really fucking helps you get into the mood, you know. You got to sort of put your game face on and feel it. So yeah, there's a lot that could be covered with it, but yeah, it definitely a change of scenery, more storylines, you know, because the wrestling is the whatever part, everyone can wrestle.
Of course. And again, with the NWA, you've been doing so well there for so long now, and just want to throw this at you. Is it the ultimate destination for you right now, or in future, would you like to give another company a crack sometime?
Yes, of course. But I'm also not delusional. Times have changed a lot. There's not a lot of second chances anymore. So there's that. Or I also feel that I'm what's the word? You want to be part of something. You want to feel like, you know, your family, you're valued, you're worth a shit. And I feel that there. I feel that at the NWA, I've got a good relationship with everybody. And I feel that for me, ultimately, if I was to stay there till the end of my career or time wrestling, I'd be absolutely fine with that too. I want the place to succeed. I want everyone to make money. You know, there's no real reason to leave. Especially if the place keeps growing and getting bigger and bigger. I want to be part of that. So it's a yes and a no. You know, of course, the kid in me would love to have a WrestleMania match with a heavyweight belt, but I know it's not going to happen. So, you know, I need to look at it for what it is, and whatever position, situation, or company, which is NWA, obviously. I just want to do the best that I can, and just I'm just out to prove something to myself and to everybody else. So it's a yes and a no, but ultimately, if I want the NWA to keep growing and keep getting bigger and bigger, and if I can be part of that until I can't longer lace the boots, I need to agent or train wrestlers again or whatever, then I'm cool with that too. I obviously want to be able to somewhat stay in the business, but I know that maybe if I'm lucky, maybe through the 5 to 10, and that's, you know, really pushing it, probably left to wrestle, because there obviously gets to a point where you also don't want to be an embarrassment. And I'm sure I'll get to a point where I'm either balding or something like that. Okay, he says, you know what, it's time. And I'll go, yep, you're completely right. I'm out of
here. Awesome stuff, bro. We're getting very close to the end of the interview here, Thom. But I want to ask you one question in regards to Camille. Because I asked Mr. K and Maddie this as well, and I also asked Camille this when I had her on the show, and I just want to keep doing this with everyone from the NWA to pressure Medusa. I want to put you on the spot. Should Medusa challenge your wife for the world title at some point? Because Medusa hasn't had a singles match since, I believe, the year 2000. So I think it needs to happen. What do you think?
Yeah, it might be slightly unfair. You know what I mean? A long time to have an absence from the ring, but I don't know. Let me toss that ball out there. What do you think, babe?
No, I about it.
Did you hear that?
Not really. No. What was that?
Well, maybe, maybe I think maybe she likes talking about it, but I don't know how prepared or ready she would be for it. You know what I mean? But hey, if people want to see it, then we should give it to the people, right?
Yeah, and it might be only me that's going on and on about this, and I just want to. I don't know why. I just want to say it, because I think I reckon it'll be great. So anyway, is it anything else that you're hoping to accomplish? Obviously you like to be a world champion, but is there anything else on the bucket list in pro wrestling that you want to do? A country that you'd like to wrestle in, maybe Australia, something like that?
Yeah. Yes. We were supposed to go whenever NWA was there recently, and unfortunately that didn't happen. So Australia is definitely, Canada too, but Australia is definitely a place that I want to visit anyway, really badly. And if I can wrestle there too, great. So yeah, definitely. The more places that I can go and wrestle, the better, especially when someone else is paying for the airfare. And then, no, for me, really, it's just helping build the NWA and staying healthy, mentally, physically, and then for a period of time when I moved to Tennessee, like 4 or 5 years ago, I was helping run a friend of mine, Crimson's wrestling school, and then after COVID that shut down, then I was helping run another wrestling school. And at some point, I think I'm going to move back down to Florida to help Jamie Stanley run his school and gym in the Orlando area. So I kind of feel like I want to get back into that. Like I got burnt out a little bit with it, and some of the issues sort of taken place, and so now I feel like, okay, I'm ready and to go and help, and I want to give back. I think that if it gets to eventually, you've got to give back. You've got to help the young guys coming in, and I get a weird sort of kick out of that because I can tell them what to do, what not to do. And it's sort of special to be able to help and develop people. Like I've had a few people right now. Colby Carter is one that I put my hat on. He's a friend of mine, but I also had sort of trained him for the last year, and so to see him now debut recently and just kill it, stuff like that is really, really special. So it's kind of like, of course, I want to be a world heavyweight champion. I want to stay healthy. I want to run till the wheels fall off, but then I also want to get back into building the next crop and helping develop the next lot that come after me. I think that it's a bit of a waste to have all this time and energy put into it and not eventually give it back. So I want to get back into training, helping train, things like that.
That's awesome to hear, bro. And I'm hopeful, very hopeful, that within the next few years you will be a world champion. I think you deserve it. I'm a very proud fan here of you here in Perth, Western Australia. And I also hope you mate Chris Adonis at some point wins it as well, because he's been at it for some time and he deserves a nice moment in the sun as well.
Definitely. Chris is, besides being a great human being, he's a hell of a talent, hell of a worker. I love watching Chris wrestle. Like, there's a few people that I really enjoy watching, and he's one of them. He has everything, So we're both kind of in the same boat. So I would love to be able to be defending or wrestling Chris for the belt or whatever down the road, or even become tag champs with him. I feel like we've got so much stuff left in the tank, whether we're together or we're apart. And for me, anytime I can be around Chris is fun and a blessing. So I'm all for Chris getting a run too.
Awesome to hear, bro. So, okay, we're getting to our final segment here. Thom Latimer is finding out about your favorite things in life. The first three are about wrestling. The rest is about a whole bunch of different stuff. But quick fire questions for quick fire answers. Thom Latimer, who's your favorite pro wrestler of all time?
A mixture between Jeff Hardy and Shawn Michaels.
Excellent choices there. Do you have a favorite opponent over the years?
Yeah, many. Nick, Mr. Anderson, Abyss, Tommy Dreamer. Trying to think who else. I really enjoyed wrestling the Usos. Red Titus. Red's great. I love wrestling Red because I can be a broomstick and he can just wrestle around me. Like that's how good Red is. I just need to hold on to him and he will get, like, he's just special when it comes to, and also like so creative with his ideas and everything too. So he's someone that I've tried to pair myself up with, even when it comes on to the indies and things like that. Like, you know, if I get asked who do you want to wrestle, I'll be like, book me with Rhett, please. You know, because I don't need to worry about anything. Red will just do everything and put me in whatever I need to be in. So no, he's tremendous. I feel like there's lots of Drew Galloway, you know, people like that, people like Drew, Bobby, Rude, Bobby Lashley, like a lot of these guys when you wrestle them, EY, you know, you have to sort of fight them. And so I always sort of enjoy that, because it's like, if I don't fight them, legitimately almost fight them, I won't get anything. And so that way you've got to sort of like, you have to actually, I've actually got to do something here. And then in the UK, Rampage Brown, who's one of my close friends, and he's in my opinion, the best UK wrestler of my age. So I'm sure there's a lot more. So if I'm missing anyone, James Storm, people like that, yep. You know, anyone else, I apologize.
No problem, bro. The next one, favorite match that you've ever had. If someone asks you, hey, Thom, can you show me a match? I've never seen you wrestle, you know, show me what it is that you do. What would be the perfect pick to show them? What would that be, that match?
Man, that is a tough one.
It usually is for a lot of people.
I don't really know. I think if I was to say my WWE run, is probably the match that me and Connor had with Justin Gabriel, PJ, and Tyson Kidd. That was one of my favorite NXT matches, besides some of the stuff we did with the Usos. It was just a real fun, cool match. And even the end, they went over, and when we get to the back, Triple H is like, oh, you guys are supposed to go over, go back out there and refilm the end. So to go back out and refilm the end, so we won instead. But so besides that being bodged there, it was probably one of my favorite matches at NXT. And then at Impact, I always had a blast with the Abyss. I know they were sort of quote unquote garbage-ish matches, but just the fact that Abyss sort of was happy to sort of like build me and put me over. And at the time, again, I didn't realize what was happening. You know, I took it for granted, but I appreciate him and what he did to help build that Brown character at the start. And then my feud, but I enjoyed my feud with Magnus too. When we were in the UK, and we had some good matches then. So that's probably my sort of like TNA-ish time. And with Ken Anderson too. I mean, Ken had some good matches. But obviously there's a lot more shenanigans in those. It wasn't like a straight wrestling match.
Yeah.
And then NWA, I don't really know. I sort of, me and Pope had a good match at Back to the Attack when we first came back from COVID. That's definitely a favorite match of mine, especially because there was no one in the arena, so it was kind of, you know, which makes it a lot harder because you've got nothing to feed off, and it's a weird experience. And so I really enjoyed that. And then, I mean, at the Left TV, me and EC3 had a good match. And so, you know, nothing that majorly stands out. I think I'm yet to sort of have those. I'm ready to sort of have those sort of stand out longer matches at NWA now. So, but, you know, nothing that I could completely hang my hat on. I think that's yet to come.
Okay, well, that's cool to hear. I know we're finally getting away from wrestling. Do you have a favorite book?
Oh, I wish I could read. I'm not reading. I when I read something, so my brain just I if I was to read a script, like my friend and acting coach Peggy, I would say to her, so I'm angry at this point, right? She'd be like, no, you're happy. Why would you be angry? I'm like, oh man, like I just read everything wrong. So I'm not. I think probably one of the last books I read was either like probably like a wrestling book. What was the last book that I read?
Read since I've known you.
Okay, I've not read since Kaylee's known me.
That's fine.
Like, pack of books that people have bought me over the years, like
Yeah.
Sabu, his book a little while ago, and I'm still yet to read that. I've got so many that I need.
Getting read too.
Pardon? I like getting
read.
read too. Yeah. So maybe maybe you can start reading me Sabu's autobiography tonight. So I don't have a good answer for that one. Sorry, mate.
That's okay. A lot of people struggle with the favorite book thing because a lot of people listen to like audio books and things like that now. It's a different world.
I need to get into force myself to try and read. I really should.
Yeah, no problem, bro.
I've got a what PlayStation is it? Whatever the new one is, I bought that like 8-9 months ago. I think I've played it like 5 times. Like I've got 10 games. Like I'm just crap when it comes to getting around to doing stuff. So anyway.
No, I'm the same. I bought a Nintendo Switch and I played it twice. There's all these hundreds of dollars and
yeah, I know. I'm gonna play you tomorrow, and I never do.
The next one's favorite TV show.
Oh man, I think the last TV show that I watched consistently from start to finish was probably Breaking Bad. Probably, and then maybe the first season of The Wire, which was good. I'm a documentary guy, so I don't. I pretty much just watch documentaries, and they could be pretty much on anything, more or less. I like my my aliens and my UFOs and my weird stuff like that. So I watch a lot of sort of bizarre documentaries. But yeah, the last TV show would probably be Breaking Bad. So that shows you how long ago that was. But I'm a guy that just watches documentaries.
That's cool. I'm going to send you some documentary recommendations on Twitter. And also Breaking Bad is my favorite TV show. So good choice.
There we go. Yeah.
Favorite film?
Oh, man. I'm a big Tom Hanks fan. So I love Forrest Gump, Green Mile. Anything Tom Hanks does is predominantly great. I think he's tremendous. I like Signs until the end. I think that's a great film until you see the alien at the end, and like they just ruined it. We should never have seen the monster. I'm a big fan of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'd probably say Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. If I was gonna be sat down, or if that was like a password for a bank, it'd probably be Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Very cool. I love that film as well. Okay, next one. I'm excited to hear this one. Favorite musical artist or band?
Oh, I've got so many, and that changes daily. I'd have to look on my Spotify to tell you. I'm a big deathcore sort of screamy fan. I dragged Kaylee to go see Signs of the Swarm the other day, and then I feel like the band that does my entrance music for the NWA, Summoning the Lich. They're playing on the 1st, which is me and Kaylee's first weekend off together. So I'm dragging her to see Summoning and Through the Eyes of the Dead. So she's super excited about that. But yeah, I all that sort of genre. I love my screaming, my low screaming, my high. I love all of it. I'm not the biggest fan of clean vocals. So.
Okay, fair enough. No, that's interesting because, like, I see like your tights, and I see like the way that the logo of your name is, and like, yeah, he likes heavy music. I can tell you right now.
Get less and less away from that sort of look, but I still try to keep it somewhat in there. Or whatever tattoos I have, I try and put on my gear and things like that.
I love meditating outside and then coming into the house with death metal on.
Did you hear that?
Yes, I did. Just outside relaxing.
He loves meditating in the garden and coming back and hearing. Just come to turn it off straight away. I'm like, that you feel good, but you know, it's kind of weird. Like that soothes and calms me. And I know listening to that music, if I wasn't into that, I'd be like, this is absolutely awful.
Comes in from meditating to listen to Cannibal Corpse or something like that. That sounds
peak feeling. Yeah. It doesn't go down.
Getting away from the arts now. Do you have a favorite food, Tom?
Chocolate.
Excellent.
I guess that's food, right?
Yeah, technically.
Yeah, I'm a sweet guy, which is a real pain in the ass. I wish I wasn't. I wish I was a pizza burger guy. Don't get me wrong, I'll eat that, but I'm a big chocolate sweets kind of guy. I prefer a cake over a burger.
Right, interesting. Do you have a favorite place to eat on the road?
A Brazilian steakhouse. Haley hates that too, because you go there and just eat as much meat until it's sweating out of my pores, and so I love it. I just feel like, it's a bit expensive, but I make sure I get my money's worth. Like normally the staff there stand and they watch me, and eventually I know that they're like, right, get rid of him.
Awesome. Thom Latimer, if you're thirsty, what's your favorite beverage? What do you go to?
I like the new Ghost energy drink. I drink a lot of water. I try to, but probably Diet Pepsi or a Pepsi Zero, and I like Dr. Pepper too. Not the biggest lemonade fan, but yeah, generally brown diet drinks.
Very nice. I love Dr. Pepper as well. Okay, this next one could be considered the naughtiest one out of these, but Thom Latimer sees a good-looking lady. Where would your eyes go to first? What's your favorite female attribute?
My wife's beautiful smile.
Very, very good answer.
Thank you.
And the last question here, Thom Latimer, favorite curse word?
I'm from the UK, and so we really like the C word. But America, so I don't use that. Probably I'll go more PG and say bollocks or twat.
Very good.
Although I think I use the F word a lot more, which I was around Nick the other day and around his son Donovan, and even then I'm like, I forget how I use it a lot, So, we don't have kids, so it's kind of one of those things. I think I probably need to figure out a better vocabulary if we did.
Awesome stuff. Well, Thom Latimer, thank you so much for your time here on the show. This has been really fun for me, even though I recorded this and I've got work now in 5 hours or 6 hours.
God bless.
But that's okay, because I've had fun and it was definitely worth it. And again, I want to say, this is the meaningful thing that I can say to a lot of people. I live in Perth, Western Australia, the most isolated city in the world, all the way over here. You got a fan in me right here, bro. And I think that that's a big thing that you've reached so far.
Well, I appreciate that, and we talked about this before. I don't really I'm not the biggest fan of doing podcasts. I have to be careful what I say. And I don't know, it's just kind of, there's a lot of clickbaity stuff or I just never want to, I like knowing that I can sort of trust whoever I'm going to talk to, and the conversation will be natural and normal, and it won't be used as an agenda or to, you know what I mean? And the stuff I'd seen of you, you appeared to me to be a genuine person that wants to watch good wrestling and isn't just going to shit on stuff for the sake of shitting on it, and you're not toxic and things like that. So, for me, it was like I wanted to speak to you just based on that fact, like what you do and the way that you talk about things is kind of how we would. And so I appreciate you for being sort of one of the more genuine good guys out there doing the podcast thing. So I appreciate you.
Oh, well, thank you very much, bro. That really means a lot to me. That's what makes doing this all worth it. So again, appreciate your time so much, Thom, and thank you one last time.
No, thanks, mate. Anytime, let me know when you want me back.
Wonderful, bro. And thank all of you out there for joining here for me in my interview here with Mr. Thom Latimer, NWA World Television Champion. This has been a great time. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we will see you down the road. Thank you.
Network, that's the way we play. Good God Almighty. Network, that's the way we play. Get puppies. Network, that's the way we play. Get.
The following announcement has been paid for by the WZWA Network.